Well, hello everybody. This is Sevilla I Love, and here we are on this channel, getting back to living and loving life again after a major life-altering loss, such as being widowed. Tonight we're going to be looking at some Q&A. I've got some viewers that write in from time to time and ask questions that I think are really applicable to a lot of folks dealing with similar issues. And so tonight, April writes in and she asks the following question. Have you all subscribed to Sevilla's channel? Okay, that's not what she said, but I said it. Is it okay? Please help this channel to grow. Subscribe and like and comment below if you find something that's useful for you, and feel free to send in your own questions. So April says, hi. I lost my husband last summer. We were married for 45 years. I am in my 60s, but I'm very vibrant and I look and act much younger than I am. I just started dating again, but I have found that the one guy I'm interested in likes me, but he is afraid I'm on the rebound. I do not feel like that, but how can I tell and how can I let him know how can I let him know I'm not if I'm not? Okay, I loved my husband very much and miss him every day, but I don't want to be alone and I feel it's okay for me. Any suggestions or help? Yes, I do. And if you have suggestions or help, put them in the chat below. And if you're a widow or a widower, I invite you to join a private Facebook group as well, at Permission to Love Again. So, April. This is a common problem widows run into. Are you sure this isn't too soon for you? Are you on the rebound? Are you really ready to love again? Well, Sevilla gave me permission. Because that's the name of that Facebook group, Permission to Love Again. Okay, I'm off topic, but listen. Here's the bottom line is, this is the truth, and then let's look at the scenarios you're dealing with. The truth is, you get to decide when you're ready. No one else gets to decide that for you. Some people start earlier rather than later. Now, I got together with my guy a year and a half after my husband died. And he asked that question too when he realized I'd been widowed just a year and a half before. He said, that was pretty recent. And I could see him like hesitate and kind of back up, like wonder, do I want to be here right now? And some people are starting much earlier than that. I did talk to a couple of people earlier on within the first year, just kind of seeing what it felt like to talk to another guy, nothing very serious. And it was all uncomfortable for me, but I remember that was the first question. Like, it's really recent. Are you sure? So what I want to say is that there's going to be a lot of judgment from other people, because there's this concept that, okay, a year is maybe respectable if you were, 2 years is probably even more respectable, and then 4 or 5 years, whatever. It's different for different people. It depends on their background, right? Their cultural background. But you get to decide what that is. But how do you have that conversation? How do you tell somebody that, yes, I am really ready? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to do a lot of your own work, because sometimes we jump because we're hurting so bad in life. We want something to stop the bleeding already. And sometimes it might seem like, hey, if I get something in its place, then I'll feel better. Now, a piece of this is true, because when we have an empty space, right, the universe hates a void. Have you ever heard that expression, universe hates a void? Even after a nuclear bomb goes off, life eventually grows up in its place. And so when we're feeling empty, we want to fill that up. And so it's not a bad thing that you want to get out there and put some love in this space where it's been ripped out of your life. But the point is, you have to do it with a consciousness of what you're doing and why. Now, when you're straight with that, when you've done your own work around it, and maybe you meet with a therapist, maybe you get some coaching, maybe you do a lot of reading and YouTube watching and really get settled with how you feel. But once you get very clear with that, then it's easier to have the discussion with someone else. And then you kind of have like an elevator speech, so to speak, that you put it in short terms. So number one, you don't have to justify yourself to someone else. However, you do want to set the person that you have your sights on at ease. And so you may say something to the effect of, you know, Joe, everybody grieves at a different rate. And just because I may still grieve the loss of my husband doesn't mean that I'm also not ready to continue living my life because I'm still here. And the one thing I've learned about myself, Joe, is that my heart is infinite. I had more than one kid, and guess what? I loved both of them. I loved them differently because they were different people, but I loved them both. And here's what I know. I know that I can love again because I have a lot of room in my heart for another person. So I'm glad to be spending time with you, and I hope that you can allow space for us to explore what's developing between the two of us. Something along those lines, right? I mean, you're going to have to kind of practice and, maybe write some stuff down, bounce it off a couple of your friends. And this goes the same for guys. One of the things I understand is that everybody goes at a different rate, but sometimes men have a reputation for starting earlier than women do. Now, I'm not sure what the statistics are because I haven't seen them, but I've heard of them, so I can't validate them and say this is true. But hearsay is that men start earlier than women in terms of dating. And one of the reasons that they say that is because if there's something wrong, a guy's going to want to, a lot of guys, not all guys, but a lot of guys are going to want to fix it. They want to find a solution to this problem that they have. And so here's a problem. I'm lonely. My heart's broken. I'm going to go fix it. And it seems like another person may help me fix that. And then they'll, move forward. And maybe they're operating in a different mindset. Now, there's some men out there that tell me they're 5 or 6 years out and they don't want nothing to do with any other women ever. And that's just fine with them. So I'm not talking to the people that are dead set against dating again. These are the people that are open to it. But so my point about sharing the hearsay about the guys is that if you're a guy and you're real early in your loss, you're going to be getting this question from the women, well, why are you dating so soon? Is this dangerous for me? And here's the thing. Sometimes it is dangerous. I also see people out there who get their hearts broken by widows and widowers because they're just this like bleeding stump of a broken heart, and they're out there just connecting with anybody and everything because they're so broken and so hurt inside themselves, they don't care about anybody else's feelings. Here's also what I want you to hear about this. That is not a widow or a widower thing. The number one and most important point of evaluation, if you're dating a widow or a widower, is that we all take our grief with us. We are a personality type or a certain type of human being, and then grief comes upon us. And so we may be doing things we haven't done before, or not done in a long time, but it's still part of who we are. So what I'm saying is we bring ourselves to grief, and then through the filter of grief, we act out. And some of us act out with responsibility and careful choice and mindful action, and some of us do not. So the one thing you need to look at with the person you're dating is what kind of character does this person have? Look at their history. Evaluate the type of person they've been before they were married, or, before they were widowed. So were they a loyal spouse? Were they kind? Were they caring? Were they responsible with their children? Were they responsible with the jobs that they held? Right? Evaluate the character of the person. That's what you need to look at before you judge them for being a widow, that you're going to do this because you've been, because your spouse died. That's not a good measure of the person. A good measure of the person is who they've been up to this point. Okay. Now, through the filter of grief, you have this person with a good character going to be responding to you. Or you have someone who had a disruptive or unpredictable character prior to the loss. They're going to bring that with them too. Okay. So make sure that you use that as your measure versus the label of widow or widower. Now, it's the grief that comes upon us that then that's going to go as a filter through and how we respond. So this person with a good, strong character may still miss their spouse. They may still, be hesitant to let things go and move things around in the house and make those changes. So you want to be gentle and careful with them and help move them along. But if they're telling you, if you're dating them, they're telling you, I'm ready, and this is why, then you need to believe them. If their reasons are sound, if they're looking anything like what I've talked about or anything that makes sense to you, then believe them. They have a right to start over. Don't hold them back because of some, concept you have in your mind about what they should or shouldn't be doing. They're still alive. You're going to deny them a new life? They didn't choose for that person to die. But they do get to choose the next step in their life. They do get to choose what happens next. So don't be controlling. Don't be controlling. Yeah. So if you get your elevator speech for the widows and you're talking about, what you're ready for and what you're not, get your elevator speech ready because you're going to need it. And just stand firm, stand strong, and be clear about what you said. A clear, concise, non-defensive explanation of why you're ready to move forward and what that looks like for you is going to be more powerful than him and hawing and making excuses and, because that makes people not want to trust what you're saying. So if you believe it and you're comfortable with it, then you're more likely that they're also going to believe you and support you in your effort to do that. So come forward strong. Now, I take a drink of water here. Okay, because I have another one, so hang on. There's more. All right, so the next question that comes through is this person is asking about their sense of spirituality. Okay, so it brings to mind that old 80s song, "Losing My Religion." Okay, don't shoot me. I know that's bad, but it's a big thing for a lot of people. So let's read the question and we'll talk about it. So this viewer says, and let's just call this guy Ryan, okay? So Ryan says, I'm wondering how to break free from old beliefs in values and spirituality. I'm having a really hard time. I feel like I'm turning into someone I don't even know, but I can't be the person that I was. It's so hard because it's really disturbing to my family and my friends. Please give some advice. Okay, Ryan, well, this is common. Say you've been living your life a certain way for so many years, doing things, believing in a way. Life is rooted strong and sound, and you know what's coming next tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, your spouse is gone, whether it's been a long term or whether it was a sudden death for whatever variety of reasons that could be. The death is always a moment. They're here, and then a moment they're gone. And in that moment, your life has been irrevocably changed. Forever, things will be different. The way you feel about yourself, your sense of self, your identity, everything you thought you believed in will come into question when your other half dies. Now, some people move on with not too many bumps and they just manage the grief. Other people are completely knocked off their frickin' rockers and they're in a whirlwind of, what is all of this for? What's the point? Why am I here? And so they may carry with them a certain set of beliefs that fit for the person and the world that they lived in. But now that the moment has shifted into this alternate reality, everything you believe in has now become a big question mark. Is that still true for me? What does that mean? It doesn't even feel right. What used to give me comfort doesn't give me comfort anymore. Why? And all of the other people around you, their world hasn't changed. Just a little teeny bit. But generally, their world hasn't changed in the way it's changed for the widow. Losing your child, losing your parent, losing your friend, all of these are different types of loss from being widowed because they define you in different ways. And I'm not going to say, one is worse than the other. It's just they're all different. But speaking to the loss of the widow, that sense of self has changed so much that the beliefs often go out the window. Sometimes radically so. They may be angry at the God that they believed in before, or their concept of that, or they may be having signs from their loved one on the other side that maybe if they paid attention to that, or the fact that they are really thinking about that, or wondering about different types of spirituality that are not in line with the beliefs they've had in the past, they may start to feel like, who am I even? I feel like a completely different person. I wouldn't have even considered these things before, and now I'm wondering, I'm curious. So your friends and family may not be accepting of this, which makes more of a sense of isolation for you. That's hard. Now, let me share with you, I get that personally. I get that. And now, not in the concept of death, but from my first marriage when I was divorced, it completely broke the spirituality, the form of spirituality that I had been using and carrying for many years in my adult life. I had a drastic change, and it was very painful, and I had to leave the community that I was so much a part of and that I defined myself so readily with, because it didn't make sense to me anymore, and I had to leave that. And it took me years. It was almost harder working through that sometimes than it was the divorce, because they were so intertwined. And so my point is that when you go through a major life transition, sometimes the sense of spirituality takes a hit. If it's been very tightly defined, and now that person's on the other side, and you're wanting to investigate the meaning of this, you've got someone on the inside now. Your other half is on the inside. You get private intel into the spirit world because you still feel so connected to them. This can't be the end. And my concept of heaven, maybe, what you had, my concept of heaven doesn't seem to fit with this. Or maybe you're having dreams, what I call visitations with your loved one on the other side. And that doesn't fit with what you used to believe either. And maybe you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to about that for fear of ridicule. So I want to say to you, from my personal belief, my personal experience over a lifetime of spiritual study, from many, many, many different types of beliefs from all over the world, but the ones that I hold most deeply and dearly in my heart is that, yes, we continue on, and that the infinitude of possibility is exactly that. It is endless. The possibilities are endless. It's almost like if we can conceive it, it might even exist. Who knows? But I would invite you to allow yourself to investigate. Now, you may not be able to share these investigations with family and friends, but this is what death does to us. It pushes us out of our comfort zone, and it forces us into the most disruptive place we could possibly stand. And what that does, that disruption does, that dark night of the soul does, is it makes us search for truth and meaning and purpose, because it has to be new, because everything has changed, hasn't it? So can you allow yourself the grace of searching, exploring new possibilities? And maybe you can't be and understand and believe in the way you were, because you can't go back to who you were, because that was taken away from you. But at your core, you're still you. You are always that divine spiritual being having this human experience. And now that you've been forced into a different life, you have the right to explore who this new you that you didn't ask for is. Protect yourself as you need to from unnecessary criticism from others. Make new friends and allow yourself to expand and explore. But know that you will be met with opposition. People want you to stay the same. They don't want you to change. But as their life continues on the same, yours has been irrevocably changed. I love this. I was listening to a talk from David Kessler, who is one of the world's best experts on grief and loss. And he was sharing a story that in another country, and I don't know where, but it was another country, in small communities, when somebody in that community dies, everyone in their home goes and moves something. Like they move a piece of furniture or a vase, or they put a mirror on a different wall or something. They physically move something in their home to recognize the loss that their neighbor has had, and to reflect back to them the awareness, understanding, and compassion that their world has forever been changed. And by changing something in their world, symbolically mirrors back to that person that they are seen, they are heard, and they are continued to be loved. Now, in this, at least in North America here, for the most part, in a majority of the culture, people just go on with their lives after somebody dies. They go on. They grieve a little bit. They bring you some food and some comforts, and then after a while, you're just on your own, trying to discover, who this new person is. And where can you find comfort if you've broken away from your religious beliefs or the spirituality that you had a strong sense of in the past? That's gone too? What? This is your dark night of the soul, and this is where you get to come out as the firebird. And believe me, the most enlightened souls came through deep bouts of suffering. Because it's the pain that drives us towards truth. It's the suffering that drives us to seek something more, something higher, something better than ourselves. It cannot be all that there is, and how I believed it to be cannot contain what I now feel in my heart. Can you allow yourself to embrace it? And if your answer is yes, then start looking. Find what resonates with your heart and follow that there. There's a new path that's been opened up to you. Don't allow fear to hold you back from that. Because on the other side of all of this fear, I'm going to wrap up tonight with this one statement. On the other side of fear is everything that you want, everything that you're looking for. So don't allow this to become a barrier. Allow it to become a springboard for all the beautiful things that you can and will become as a result of this loss, and the meaning that you will create out of it. Because you can do that. You have a right to do it. You have a right to be happy again. You have a right to seek truth by yourself, for yourself, through your own eyes and through your own heart, not through the eyes or the knowledge of others, but through your own, because you too are a divine being with eyes and ears to hear. Have a good night. And don't forget to subscribe.